Hello everyone, and welcome to the June 2017 update of the Power BI desktop. We have lots of exciting features this release, a ton of reporting features, including some updates to the table and matrix preview. We also have a ton of data connectivity features and also an update to the query editing experience. Let's start with the first feature of the reporting section. We have yet another update to our new table and matrix preview. This month, it's the addition of data bars. What data bars is another form of conditional formatting. We've already had color scales, which lets you shade the background of your cell based off of the value of the cell. So, for example, you could color the cell's background red if the value is low and green if the value is high, and the rest in a gradient in between. Data bars, instead of using background color, it fills the cell with a bar. So the length of the bar corresponds to the value of the cell. Almost no bar, very low value, a really long bar, bigger value. So let me show you that in action. So I'm going to start by adding a new table to my reporting canvas and also filling that in with manufacturer sales amounts in units. Now, when I want to turn on data bars, it's very similar to when I turn on the conditional formatting color scales option. I can just open the menu for a field and go to the conditional formatting option, and you'll now see two choices here. Color scales is the one that we've had for quite a while now with the gradient background, whereas data bars is the new option. So I'll click data bars, and it opens up a dialog. From here, I have a couple of different options. I can choose if I want the value of the cells, the actual number, to show in the cell or only show the bar. And I can also set what my minimum and maximum value is and the colors I want to use for the bar and the axis and the bar direction as well. So I'm going to just leave the defaults and hit OK. And automatically the bars are filled in on the sales amount column. And it's really easy to see that whenever my biggest value, which is for Contoso manufacturer, fills up the majority of the cell, whereas Tailspin Toys, which is my smallest, only has a tiny little sliver of a bar. And so it's really easy to visually see the differences in the amount of sales. It's also good by doing a cross comparison. So if I add the data bars to the units, and this time I'm going to turn it on a different way to show you that there's actually two places you can go to control the settings. I'm going to go this time into the formatting pane, and we have this new card called conditional formatting. And in here I'll see each of the different measures that are in my table, and I can independently turn on and off color scales and data bars. So I'm just going to turn it on, and it automatically will apply the default values, but using this advanced controls option, I can pop that same dialog you saw earlier. But the defaults were good for me, so I'm just going to slightly increase this column to make it easier to see the bars. And now you can easily see that even though AdventureWorks, for example, has more sales than ProSwear, AdventureWorks actually sold less units individually than ProSwear did. So this feature is a really great feature to use whenever you're trying to visualize your data in a table or a matrix. We also have a new formatting option for line, area, and combo charts this month. We now have the ability to add markers onto the individual points of your line charts. So let me show you that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a line chart. And to this line chart, I'm going to add order date, and I'm going to add sales size and my sales amount. Let's move sales size to legend and drill down a few layers. And now to add markers, I'm going to go into the formatting pane. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch my axis type to a categorical line chart. and make sure the axis is formatted the way I want. And then I'm going to go into the shapes card. Now the reason I did this is because currently markers is only supported on categorical axis. We will be adding it to continuous axis in a future release. But for now, just categorical, and once you've set that, you'll be able to go in, and in here, you'll see the show markers option. And just by flipping the switch on, it will automatically add a circle marker to all of the lines in my line chart, and also color them corresponding to the line they are on. This by default is already a very nice feature, but we also have lots of customizations you can do. You can, for the entire chart, change the marker type, so I can change them all to squares, put them back to circle. I can also change the color of all the markers into one. So for example, I'll set all the markers to purple color. And I can also customize per series as well. So if I expand this, customize series option, I'll see settings for each individual series. So I can go ahead and leave large as the circle, but for medium, I want that to be a square. And for small, I want this to be a triangle. And now each line has a different marker shape on it. This feature is both a really fun customization option, but it also helps users who are reading your report be able to distinguish lines that may be close in color. So in this example, each color was pretty distinct from each other, but if you had, for example, a lighter shade of the same green, you could use a circle on one and a square on another, and then that just makes it even easier to differentiate the lines from each other. This month, we've also added a font family setting to the majority of the visuals you have available to you in Power BI. So whenever I go into, say, this table, I'm able to select in the formatting pane anywhere that I would normally have text options. I see a new option called font family. So for example, in column headers, I see this font family setting, and in this drop down, I'll see all of the same options that I already have available to me in the text box for quite a while. So for example, I'll set the headers here to, let's say, Comic Sans, and I will also set the values of the cells to, let's go with Calibri. And so now all of the text in my chart automatically updated to use that font family. This is a really great feature if you're trying to create consistency in your fonts across your reports, and Go just isn't the font you want to use. So if you already are using the fonts in your text boxes, you now can apply those same settings across the majority of the places you have text in your charts. There's a couple of small places where we don't yet have this setting. We'll be adding that in the next couple of releases to fill out all the remaining places that it's missing. So start using this feature to add a little bit of customization to your reports. The next feature on our list is a horizontal image slicer. We've had the ability to create an image slicer vertically for quite a while now, and this month we've now enabled it also for the horizontal orientation. So let me show you how to do that. I'm first going to go and I'm going to just create a default slicer, and I'm going to add my logo images to this slicer. By default, it shows up in the vertical orientation, but I can go now into the formatting pane, and under the general card, you'll have the orientation option, and you can change that to horizontal. And now I have a nicely formatted horizontal slicer, and I can just start changing my manufacturers to filter the rest of my report. Image slicers are really great whenever you have, for example, you can have an image per category of the different things you sell in your company, or if you have, as I do here, logos for different companies selling my products, I can show that as well. And it just adds a little bit of fun as well as usability to your report. This month, we're also continuing to add more formatting options to your combo chart. The first is that we now have this switch in the formatting pane that lets you force the zeros in your two axes to align with each other. And the second is you're able to shade the area of the line in the combo chart. So let me show you both of those. So I'm going to start by adding a combo chart to my page. And I'm going to put category on the axis, my net satisfaction score, and my likelihood to purchase again into the values. And for the line, I have this measure that does the percent difference between those two. And I'm going to put that as my line. And as you can see, my 0 for the line is up here, whereas my 0 for the bars is way down here to the bottom left corner. It makes it kind of hard to compare that easily, so I'm going to go into the formatting pane, and under the y-axis, I'm going to go down, and right under the option that says Show Secondary Axis, we have this new toggle called Align Zeros. And when I turn that on, my two zeros of the axis automatically will align with each other. I can also, by going to the Shapes card, I have this new option called Shade Area that when I turn on, will automatically convert that line to an area chart. And so these two formatting features are just a couple more small improvements to give you even more flexibility when designing your charts. We also have some very exciting updates to our Bing maps in the product as well. The first update is that we've added a new theme for your map. So if instead of the road background, you prefer aerial, you'll now be able to use that background for your map instead of the roads. Also, at the end of this month, all of our maps are going to be updating to Bing's new API, their V8 API, and what that means for all of you is, for the most part, you're seeing no difference. And the maps, they'll just perform slightly better. They'll look slightly better in terms of the tiles behind the maps. But you wouldn't notice too much of a difference, except for when that switch occurs, you'll also get two more map themes. So near the end of June, you will see not only road and aerial, you'll also at that point see gray and a dark theme map pop up as well. So you'll be able to watch out for those near the end of the month. We also made an improvement to our Geo Hierarchy experience. So what this means is when creating your maps, there's typically a hierarchy involved. You have some, for example, country data, the states or regions within the country, how each country breaks up their land, and then the next layer down would be city, and then even further down would be zip code. So there's usually some form of hierarchy in your data. And now you can use that hierarchy in your maps to help us geocode even better. So for example, let's take Paris. There's obviously Paris, France, but there's also a Paris in Texas. And sometimes when geocoding just Paris by itself, you won't know which option you're going to get back from Bing, Paris, Texas, or Paris, France. But if you add a hierarchy into your map, starting with the country and drilling down into the next level, we will always make sure we will be able to send both the country and the city to Bing and get back the appropriate Paris on the map. So let me show you the map themes. So I'm going to go and I'm going to add a Bing map to my report. And in here, I'm going to add country and my sales per country. So by default, we still have the standard road map, but in my formatting pane, I have this map styles option, and in here, you'll see theme, and by default, as I said, it's road, but you can switch over to aerial. And now this is a nice aerial map that we get from Bing. It goes into really refined details, like you can go down to individual houses here. So if you're actually geocoding addresses and you want to see the address of the location that you're mapping, you can use this map and it will look a whole lot better. As mentioned, at the end of this month, when we upgrade to the next Bing Maps API, you'll actually see 2 more options in this drop-down, one for gray and one for dark. I only have country in this data set, so I won't be able to actually show you the Geo Hierarchy experience, but the way it will work is that you'll take all of your different fields and you'll just create a hierarchy in the location. So you can, of course, just drag things in here and continue to add more and more layers of the hierarchy, just like any other chart. And as you go through, each layer should be marked appropriately in your model. So for example, right now my country is not categorized at all. That is not really good practice. I should go in here and in data category, set that to my country. And if I had also a city in here, I could add that to the location and set the data category to city. And as I drill down using the, let's just put this field in here so you can see it, the drill options, as I drill down using the expand all option or the drill into a single point option, we will send all of the information we get from the hierarchy to Bing to improve our geocoding experience. This month we have an update to our sampling algorithm we use on highly dense line charts as well. So whenever you are above our data point limit, the sampling algorithm we use at that point, we've heard feedback that users want it to be improved and to guarantee that they will see all their max and min values and all of their outliers. And with that in mind, we've made a massive improvement to this algorithm. The way the algorithm now works is that we will take your line chart and we'll bin the axis into small little bins, similar to the binning feature we have. We automatically do this, and within each of the small bins, we will pick the max and min point for each of the lines of that bin, and we will use that value to plot. What this means is that you will see an even better feel for the shape of your line chart, as well as making sure you see your outliers, so all of your max and min points of your data. So to demonstrate this new sampling algorithm, I'm going to take this line chart I already have and first start by just cleaning it up a little. I'm going to remove this sail size from the legend. I'm going to turn off my markers and I'm going to turn the axis back into a continuous axis. And I'm going to add my category to the legend. Now the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drill down to my last layer, my per day sales, which will put me over the data point limit. And you'll notice right away we automatically applied this new sampling algorithm. We think this new algorithm is so much better than the last one that we are turning it on by default. But if you do want to see what the old sampling algorithm would have looked like, or you in fact still want to use the old sampling algorithm, you can go into the general card at the formatting pane, and at the very bottom you'll see a high density sampling option, and you'll be able to turn that off. And then at that point we will automatically go back to the old sampling algorithm and you'll be able to use that instead. The last thing I want to talk about in the reporting section is around accessibility. Accessibility is all about making sure that everyone of all abilities is able to consume and access the same data that everyone else can. And at Power BI, we really care about that because our goal is to get data into everyone's hands. And So with this release, we are starting our first bit of work to make Power BI accessible. We started with the goal of letting users be able to consume Power BI reports. There are many more consumers of Power BI than there are creators of Power BI reports. So we're hitting the most people that way. And we really wanted to be able to empower report authors to be able to make the most accessible reports possible as well. So that's our main focus with this release. So with that, we have a series of features for report authors. We've already mentioned markers for line, area, and combo charts. That, while a formatting feature, could also be considered an accessibility feature. Whenever you think of accessibility, a lot of times people think blind viewers, but that also could mean someone who is colorblind. And markers is a really big help whenever someone viewing your report is going to be colorblind, because you're no longer relying purely on color to differentiate the lines. You can also use our theming feature. We have in the desktop a theming feature in preview, and on our community site we have these great report theme gallery, and there's several accessible themes there as well. And by using an accessible theme, either from our gallery or one you create yourself, you're able to make sure the colors you use across your whole report are easily distinguishable for everyone who's looking at the report. The last feature to talk about with accessibility is a new one for this release. We've added alt text to charts. So let me show you that in action. For every single chart, you'll see in the General tab this new feature called alt text. It lets you define a description of the chart, and this will be read out by a screen reader when a user is tabbing through your reports. So this allows you make sure that even if someone who's looking at your report can't see the chart, they'll still be able to know what insight you wanted them to be able to get from the chart. So by making sure you're using themes and markers appropriately so colorblind users can see all the data and distinguish between the points, and by giving alt text to your charts, you'll be able to make a fairly accessible report for users who are viewing your report. But accessibility is not just about the author defining different formatting features to make the report easier to understand, but also about people who are, for example, only can use a keyboard, being able to access the report and be able to navigate it. With that in mind, we've enabled some keyboard shortcuts that make it easier to move between the page switching and the focus on the different charts. And we've also enabled screen readers to be able to read out all the details of the chart. So the chart title, the type of chart, and also this description you define here. So to show you that in action, I'm going to actually go into the web browser and go over to this report that I've already added alt text to. And now I'm going to enable narrator, which is Windows screen reader.
Starting narrator.
And now what I can do if I want to navigate the report using the screen reader and using the screen reader combined with the keyboard, I can first use Control F6, which will flip my focus between the report page, and which has all the charts on it, and the page switcher on the bottom. So I can use Control F6.
Page 2 PAGE1. Selected. Page 2 tab item.
And the screen reader will move the focus down to the page switcher. It will read to me what the page title is and let me know if it's the selected page. I can use tab to switch between all the different pages and use enter to load the page that I care about. And then once I have the page I care about loaded, I can use Control F6 again to move focus back to the report.
Sales amount by country map. Most of our sales occur in the United States. Group.
And once I move to a chart, it will read to me the title that I defined, followed by the chart type, in this case it was a map, and then that description that I wrote earlier in the alt text. And now I can just continue to tab and move between my charts.
Slicer. Group. Table Contiso generates our highest sales and sales the most units. Group.
And so these features together, especially once you take a report and you embed it in a very accessible app, such as an app you create yourself or a SharePoint site, or if you publish to web and put in your own website, once you build an accessible page around your report that gives focus to the Power BI report when necessary, a user will be able to consume that report purely with the keyboard and the screen reader. This is obviously pretty simplistic at this point. Like I said at the start, this is just our first step towards building accessibility into Power BI. We want to continue to make this process easier for both authors and consumers, and find more ways for consumers to be able to get at the data behind the chart. And you'll be seeing more updates in this area in the coming releases as well. Moving on to the data connectivity features, our first feature here is the ability to connect to your own custom data connectors in the Power BI desktop. We've recently announced that you can create your own custom data connector to any data source you want and be able to use that in the Power BI desktop to pull in data and create your own reports. So once you've built out this custom data connector, you can put it in the correct folder, and Power BI will be able to detect that, and under Get Data, just with the list of all the other official Power BI connectors, you'll see your own custom data connector as well. This feature's in preview, so make sure to turn that preview feature switch on if you want to use it, and once you've done that, you can use them just like any other connector. We also updated our Power BI service connector under the online services options. Power BI service, you can now connect to 2 new types of data sets from the service in the desktop. You can connect to on-premises sources and also the push streaming data sets that you may have in the service. You can now pull those in just like you could the other data sources already and be able to build your own new reports off of that data set, creating your data set once and reusing it across all of your reports that you need. We're also GAing two of our connectors, the Impala connector and the Amazon Redshift connector. You see both of those in the list without the beta tag anymore. We thank you for all the feedback that you gave us while they were in beta phase. It really helped us to improve them and got us to where we are today, where we can now officially make those connectors generally available for everyone. We've also made an improvement to our SAP BW connector. With this month, we are enabling a beta version of Direct Query. So the connector itself is not in beta, but whenever you select it in the list and you try to connect to it, you'll see that there's this, instead of just import, you now also have a Direct Query option that you can start using as a beta feature, and you can start giving us feedback on it, and we will continue to make it better. Speaking of beta connectors, we are releasing yet another new beta connector this month as well. You can now connect to IMDb Netezza in Power BI Desktop. Make sure to give that connector a try and let us know any feedback you have so we can continue to make that connector even better. The last feature area I want to talk about is query editing. In a previous month, we released the feature called Add Column from Example, where you just start typing in what you want the new column to look like, and we will figure out for you what different transformations need to be applied to make that happen, and we'll automatically create that column. This month, we are improving that feature even more. We've added even more transformations that are supported, and we are also giving you suggestions of things you can do and letting you know what transformations would do those as well. So let me show you what I mean. If I go into the query editor, I go under Add Column and pick the Column from Example feature. Now I can start typing in what I want to see. So for example, let's say I wanted to make a column that was the name of the month from the order date. So I'm going to type in October, and you can see as I'm typing, it's giving me suggestions for different things I can do. And as I get more specific, it is pulling out even more detailed, more specific to what I am typing, and it also, in addition to giving me what I could auto-completing what I could be typing, it is telling me what transformation would it be using to do that. So this is helpful if you're doing something where there's more than one transformation that could result in the same answer. You'll be able to pick out whatever transformation is the one you wanted to do. So I'm just going to click October, and automatically it fills in the date, the month name for all of the other columns for me. And then I can hit OK, and I have a new column. This is a great feature to use if you are new to Power BI and you don't know the query editor well and you just want to learn how to use the functionality, but also to really speed up the amount of time it takes for you to get the data in the format you want it to look like. That's all for this month. I hope you try out all of these great features and give us all the feedback you have on them so we can continue to make the Power BI desktop better and better every month. Thank you.